I'm visiting the Oracle office, meeting with a few of the executives here in Denver. I'm going to head upstairs. Well, good afternoon, Lyle. Thank you for joining me here today.
Patrick, nice to be with you.
Yeah, good to see you. So, I want to talk about a couple different things going on in the JD Edwards marketplace.
Sure.
Particularly citizen developer is one of the concepts.
Oh, great. One of my favorite topics.
Good, good. So, citizen developer is something that has came up a lot for us talking with clients, particularly because we provide a lot of functional consulting resources, and citizen developer is working with and end users are utilizing the concept. So could you talk to me a little bit about what citizen developer is for those folks out there that aren't familiar with it?
Yeah, so when we talk about citizen developer, what we're really talking about is the end of the continuum of development, if you will. So like there's traditional development that goes on in my shop, there's traditional IT development. A lot of that is done as design time, right? Then compile coding activities, right? What's happened since then is a whole plethora of tools have come to the market, and obviously JD Edwards, we've fueled that, bringing tools to market that really allow for us to deliver low code to no code solutions that are more runtime available. Right, and so what it really does is it enables the far extremes of that continuum, everything from the business analysts to the power users, even to the end users themselves, right, to use capabilities within the system itself to extend it, to bolt onto it, to add to the functionality, to change how they interact with the system, how they receive their data and what data they receive, and how decisions are made within the company.
Yeah, it seems like a very valuable tool for companies to extend their business function.
Well, there's always more need than there is traditional developers to deliver on those, right? And certainly, you know, when you take a look at today's IT shops, very, very constrained, right? Both budgetary, but also in the amount of time that they have to meet all those emerging business needs, because that's the other thing that's going on here. Business is changing at an unbelievable rate. So the idea here is to really tap into that whole universe of potential development to be able to meet some of these, you know, currently unmet business needs.
Okay. So citizen developer in general is a concept that applies to many different ERPs, and it can apply to Oracle ERPs or competitors' ERPs. What is it about JD Edwards citizen developer and how the software has been built to make it more conducive?
You hit on the core there. It's about the architecture itself, right? Okay. So yes, conceptually, these things make sense for any of your enterprise systems. The fact is, do those enterprise systems facilitate citizen developer through the architecture itself, right? So it's not just bringing the tools that can help you configure and extend and personalize, but it's also doing that within the framework of the architecture so that whatever a citizen developer works on, it inherits those things that are necessary, things like security and performance from the underlying infrastructure. And again, that's one of the things that makes JD Edwards different.
So in doing some research on citizen developer, Gartner had a publication released in 2009 that said all new applications, new extensions, 25% of those were going to be done by a citizen developer.
And what probability did they put on that?
Well, 70% or 80% probability.
They said by 2014 it was going to happen, right? And now we're in 2016, and we haven't hit that mark of all 25% being citizen developer developed new applications. So
the fact are that more and more end users, right, are configuring and personalizing their system every day. And I see that in the JD Edwards community through the use of Cafe One and E1 pages and just what they've been able to do with watch lists and the other tools that we've brought to the bear. So whether it's 25% of all applications or 15% or 50 at this point, really hard to gauge. But we do know that there's an appetite, through business analysts, power users, and even to the end users themselves to extend the system or to make it more their own. And then also don't forget the architectural element, right? Those tools being intimately tied to the architecture itself, right? Because that's where you're going to get the real power so that the work is not throwaway work when you go to the next release.
So one thing that we try and do is work specifically with clients who are educated, who are familiar with the technology, who really are self-sufficient users and provide the complementary pieces to support them.
Right.
So I was able to gather about 5 really good questions from different customers. So is it a part of the software, or is it the company's responsibility to basically take the best personalizations that were done by end users and then apply them to other people in the organization?
Okay, these are no-code to low-code solutions where you're really just using the attributes of the system to configure and personalize more than anything else. Now, we continue to push the bounds on that. We've got some great things on the roadmap to continue to enable. But it's everything from, like I said, sort of the user flow, the application flow, but also how you would interact with equipment that you might have or machinery that you might have in-house. So, human to machine or even machine to machine computing. So enabling end users to do that wiring within the industrial internet or the Internet of Things.
So when you look at doing upgrades or maintaining ESUs, and those are important things as the life cycle of the technology continues. When a end user makes some of these personalization changes or a business analyst makes those changes, how are they transferred into that next stage in the life cycle? Is there an easy way to do that?
Yeah, so we actually augmented our lifecycle management tooling that we have within JD Edwards, and we augmented that, making room for this now new first-class citizen, these new objects that are created that we refer to as user-defined objects. So yes, yeah, and it is housed within our metadata structure and what have you, yes.
We know that the more customizations you have, the more changes.
This is to create a separate layer, right, that we're not going to touch. As a core development team, we're not going to touch that, right? We're going to deal with our lower levels, right, of sort of and using our design time tools to continue to augment now the underlying system. Now, what I would say, and very much, what Heartland I think can do and has been doing, is we together can bring content patterns to the marketplace. And so we've done that as the JD Edwards team. So we've got these, what we call active pages. They're these role-based industry set of pages that provide a solution over JD Edwards using these user-defined objects and citizen developer tools to show customers and our partners the art of the possible.
Right.
Those have become part of the product. We ship it with the product, but it's a set of content. It's not core code.
I personally have learned a lot over the past few years how important industry-specific solutions are. In the past,
what's critical is where the money's made.
Right. Well, in the past, it was a JD Edwards consultant or a JD Edwards resource to come in and do something. Now clients are being a little more particular and requesting for an industry-specific consultant, even if it's a module as common as General Ledger. Right? They want an industry-specific solution because of all the personalization that could be done on top of that.
And because there are differences. There really are, So, a little of this is theoretical, and there are those that believe that there's a perfectly abstracted ERP system that's perfectly good for all customers, right, regardless of industry that they're in. But the problem with that approach is you're going to be a lowest common denominator, so the value that you're going to add back to that potential customer is pretty low. Right. Whereas if you start to take a more industry-influenced view of the world, that healthcare companies are different than engineering and construction companies, right? Which are different than somebody that grows corn for a living. Right? And there's some very, in some cases very non-subtle, but also very subtle differences as you work your way through the layers of ERP. And you have to be cognizant of that. So it's not a surprise to me that you're getting that demand from customers saying, yeah, I want somebody with domain. And we've definitely seen that and obviously jumped on that trend many years ago.
One other more technical question related to citizen developer is, when they're making changes, are they done in the AIS server or are more in the API layer?
Yeah, that's okay. That's a pretty good technical question.
Okay.
I would say that all those things are highly orthogonal. Okay, so the AIS server, right, or AIS, application interface services, are really a set of APIs. Okay. That fit into JD Edwards server-based architecture. Okay, so that those APIs can be centered within a server that allows you to make unique calls, very lightweight calls, frankly, to everything that is JD Edwards on the back end, all our logic and configuration and business data and what have you. Basically calling through a set of our programs, if you will, or our forms.
Yeah.
Think of it as at a form level,
Okay.
right? So it basically takes the head off the form and exposes that through some very lightweight, cloud-based API mechanisms. Okay.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate you taking some time here to talk today.
You bet, Patrick. Yeah, it was
been
fun.
been very informative and fun, and hopefully we can share this information with the marketplace and help educate more of the JD Edwards community as to what's happening.
I always look forward to it.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you.